on live, an opportunity for all you out there to ask us unvetted questions at any point in time. So just fire those through as we go on. Tonight, I've got an amazing superstar of a co-host with me here tonight, my wingman, some might say.
Ryan. Rooster or Iceman?
You can be Rooster, mate. You can be my Rooster.
How you going, everyone? Happy to be here for my second, I think, or third, possibly Q&A. So pumped to get into it.
We've got a whole bunch of stuff that's been going on in the office over the last couple of weeks. Like, I missed out on the last one. I had my pedal to the metal, taking a couple of clients through some coaching series. So RT, was running that with you guys, which was awesome. Of course, as always, I caught up on that later, as we always do. So as the host has just said there, don't hesitate to fire us any questions through as we go. We're looking forward to answering any questions that you might have. Ryan, what's been happening on your end, mate? How's things been in the office?
Mate, things have been good. I think I'm transitioning into the next phase of my Axon IETs. So this week was a bit of a benchmark for me. I started taking my own coaching sessions. So I've got two under my belt now where I'm not the wingman. And it's been a big week. I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it.
How good is it, mate? Like, we'll talk in a little bit about sort of your experience and going through. Like, I know, mate, that much like myself, I went through the process as a client, and that gives you a certain level of understanding and empathy that comes along with going through the process. Like, every time, we jump on, normally when there's couples, we jump on and one's sitting on the back like this and the other one's sitting forward like this. And my wife and I were exactly the same going through the process. But, having an opportunity to have gone through the process for myself, not only once or twice, but also for yourself, gives us a huge level of empathy to relate and relatability to our clients. Like, if the process didn't work, you wouldn't have these two shaved gorillas sitting on this side of the screen. So, mate, it's bloody fantastic, isn't it, mate?
No, as I tell some of the clients, before the military, I was a town planner, and I didn't go back to town planning to come to work at Axon. If Axon wasn't who they are, like, I wouldn't be here. I would have gone back to my previous career. So, so pumped to be able to sit down and just talk to people and understand what's going on with them. And I've just seen Big John O'Mackay's clocked in. He's been trying to get in on time for a few weeks now, all the way over in WA. How you doing, mate?
It's great to see you in the house, mate. It's absolutely fantastic. I loved going through our planning sessions that we went through and provide you with the clarity of what options were available to us. And that's exactly that journey that I was just talking about before with both myself and with you, Ryan. There's those light bulb moments that come on for every single client that goes through the journey. There'll be either one or a number of specific moments, particularly that we get the privilege of seeing right up front, in that coaching series, where they'll sit forward and go, holy fuck. Or they'll look at it. I had two of my fantastic, clients, brand new through the door, was coaching with them the other day. And I said, am I boring you? And they went, far from it. We both just whispered to each other, how fucking enthralling is this?
Mate, you bore me, but you don't seem to bore our clients. So that's all right. That's what matters. We've got Brooke Turvey says hi. She's in the house. We've got Mickey Gallen has logged in as well, which is awesome. And I've just seen Geordie West. Hey, mate, how you doing?
Geordie,
I think this will be their first Q&A live, which is fantastic. Another WA resident. Awesome.
Yeah, mate. Geordie, your name comes up, as do all our clients come up. We come up on our 3 times a week. We go through and we get debriefed on everyone's journey and where they are and what's happening on their journey, mate. So I feel like I get to know our clients, even the ones that I don't have an opportunity to coach. Like, we talk about them so frequently and about their personal circumstances and when things change, because it's always an all-informed net when we're working inside of Axon. Many hands make light work, and so there's lots of heads that go to any kind of problem set. So I get the feeling that, I get to know these people personally, and then, every now and then I get to meet them when they come in the office, and what a privilege and a treat that is, hey?
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully we can get some of our WA clients over to the East Coast at some point. You never know.
Or Robbie and Tammy might be so gracious
to
take your knuckleheads over there and go and have a beer with our clients over there.
Tammy just said she took a double take this morning. I'm sure people who've chimed in for a bit noticed that the other week I had the mo and Luke might have had a bit of a beard, although it was a terrible go at it. But now we've switched. I can switch in about a couple of days, so it doesn't faze me.
takes me a little while to get anything substantial growing on my upper lip. Unfortunately, I have the genes of an Amish man, and I just grow a throaty. That's why I stick to pretty clean shaven most of the time. That's right, mate. John. Is that confirmed, buddy? Is that posting order, has that been confirmed for you now? Can you just send through for us so we have an idea of what's happening with you, mate? Hey, Ryan, talk to us a little bit more. Of course, Becky Hitton's in the house, mate. It was great to have you. I don't think I've had an opportunity to thank you for participating with us on Anzac Day either, mate. That was absolutely fantastic to have
great
you guys.
to meet you, Beck, yeah.
Like I was just saying, it's an absolute privilege. Like, we work with people all over Australia. So, we get an opportunity to see them face to face, of course, and get to know what makes them tick and have a look at sort of inside of their, their personals and particulars with their financial situation and that sort of stuff. But it's always so much better and so much more rewarding for us when we get an opportunity to meet those people in person. And also, it's awesome for them to get to meet us as well, like to see that we're not just a couple of, faces on the other side of a screen, and we are human and we do like beers sometimes. Mate, we'll go back, mate, to talking about your experience over the last couple of weeks. I just want to hone in on that before we move on. I think it's important for us to sort of, as Axon evolves, it's always an open sort of, screen for us. There's nothing behind the screen with us. And so I want to give our clients an opportunity to understand some of the things that you've developed, some of the skill sets that you've developed over the last couple of months in particular, and the last couple of weeks, noting that the training wheels are coming off and you're starting to become a fully fledged property coach.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I think, for those out there that understand that my story, I was an int officer in the RAF. So one would think that coming from that profession, you'd be fairly proficient at PowerPoint. Now, the people that have gone through the coaching series are well aware of how proficient that people are of PowerPoint. So when my training wheels have started to come off, obviously we're building PowerPoint on the fly, listening to what our clients are saying, thinking of the next sort of piece of the puzzle that's coming up, trying to problem solve and recall, all the while moving arrows and making squares and stuff. And to be honest, I thought I was pretty good at PowerPoint back when I was in uniform, and this has put me through the ringer a bit. So it's certainly a skill that's developing to do it in real time. When you're back in the skiff and you can do it slow time, it's easy. But when you do it in front of some people and you're trying to think on the fly as well, it's certainly a challenge and a skill that I'm coming to appreciate. Yeah,
mate, absolutely. Like you just said, it's one thing to be able to build a PowerPoint slide and that sort of stuff. But, whilst we have a very cookie cutter business model, like, it works, like, we don't apologize for that because it fucking worked hundreds of times for clients, including ourselves going through. We apply those skill sets in a very bespoke way because, look, everybody's circumstance is different. Everybody's portfolio requirements are different. So for us, it's extremely important that we're able to apply those skill sets on the fly with people as those problem sets sort of arise, or those curveballs sometimes arise.
Yeah, absolutely.
How tiring, like, it's enthralling jumping on a call with clients. Like, there's sometimes I get home in the afternoon after a big day of work when, yes, Tammy, both oars are in the water and we're rowing hard. You get home and you're a little bit tired from a huge day of effort, and you've got 2 or 3 hours of coaching that night. But it's almost like the second that the client pops up on the screen, you are balls to the wall and you give absolutely everything you've got for those guys, to guys and girls, to be able to give them what they expect coming out of it. But how tiring is it, mate, off the back end of that, when the adrenaline starts to go down? You've delivered the clients are satisfied, everyone's happy, they've got the clarity that they came after. How bad are you after it, mate?
Well, mate, my first one on my own was on a Friday afternoon. Now, for people out there that know the Air Force, we don't work past midday. And my first coaching session kicked off at 12:30, so I was shattered to begin with. No, it was as the sort of bell rang, it was awesome. But yeah, you're dead right. Like 2 hours it flies by. And yeah, I went downstairs. I was pumped because that was obviously my first session. Had a chat to Amana, my lovely wife, and then I had a margarita waiting on the kitchen bench. So it was a good Friday afternoon.
A hard-earned thirst, mate.
Yeah.
What's this? I said to Luke that this is from Tammy. Thank you, GM. I said to Luke the other day, I never met anyone who used analogies as much as Robbie until I met Luke. Ain't that the truth, Tam? I try to come out with a few zingers once a week.
Hey, I just saw Dave's in the house as well. Another Rafi. Welcome, mate. Awesome to see you here.
It throws me still throws me. Like, I've only been officially out now for just over 6 months. It still throws me when I jump on and there's a Rafi with a beard. I immediately still go back to assuming that they must be in the Navy. But of course, the CAF put his proverbials on the line when the CDF said no beards, and he said, righto, I'm going to hold this decision as a single service document, and made the decision to go with allowing Raffies to have beards. So now it's just the army that have to grow questionable mustaches. Mate, so yeah, I've really thoroughly enjoyed watching your experiences and your development grow, and I absolutely know that the level of service that we provide to our clients up that front end to provide that clarity isn't wavering one little bit. In fact, reinforcing exactly what Robbie and I do at the front end to give that that preparation for people before they go into the acquisition of their first or follow-on property. So yeah, mate, it's awesome. I've got someone on the back channel that's also had an experience now, and he's someone that we usually keep in the cupboard. We don't let him out in public much.
In the shadows, yeah.
In the shadows. So this young fella, he's one of the pivotal parts to our business. Now, as you guys know, you probably see lots of us out there. You probably see a lot of what we do on Facebook and on social media, and a lot of the product that we put out to be able to inform people, educate people, and commence them or provide them with the confidence to be able to reach out and touch base with us just for that first instance. So this guy, he jumped in a couple of months ago now with me. So he was fresh faced. He's still pretty fresh faced.
Yeah, mate, he's going to be fresh faced at 80.
He was pretty fresh in the business, and so it was just to give him an understanding of some of the aspects of what our clients go through. He's now had a chance to jump on a call with RT as well and watch watch the master at work, watch Gandalf with the wizard bloody rolling away with his PWAPs. So I just want to grab him and get him to jump online now and share his experience with what it's like seeing both Robbie and I jump into doing what we do best. You there with me, Kieran? Here he is. The baby face killer.
Talk about a fresh face.
Baby face Canadian. Here we go.
Mate, we got all our bases covered now with the facial hair. Or my lack thereof.
With a moisturising regime like yours, mate, you could be a coach in a couple of years. Mate,
I was telling Robbie the other day, I was like, if we do Movember this year, I need to start now.
And you still won't get there.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Look how excited Tammy is. KC, welcome to the screen. Mate, you would have heard me just giving you a little bit of props in your intro there before you came on the screen. It's been, again, as with Ryan, you've been pretty new in the business. I've watched the training wheels come off and the amount that you're contributing and the way in which you're able to reach out and sort of connect us, allow us to connect with our clients is absolutely fucking phenomenal, mate. So, in a public forum, I want to thank you for the hard work that you do.
I guess for those that out there that don't know, Casey's part of the marketing team, so he's right into the digital space, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So I've recently joined in. Pretty much, you started, I guess, 2 days before I did, right, Ryan? We were hired at the same time.
Yep.
And which I kind of regret not starting at the same time as you because now I'm officially the most recent hire.
We call that the FNG.
Yes.
New guy. Mate, you in the interim early on, you got a chance to jump in with me when you were going through. Like, there wouldn't have been much context of what sort of occurs and where things plug in and that sort of stuff. So it was more of an understanding of some of the things that the clients will go through when they go through their journey. But you've recently had an opportunity to jump on with RT going through and him providing clients with that experience of planning and putting a strategy in place and providing with that ultimate clarity, mate. Share with our audience what it was like for you sitting in the bleachers watching that occur.
Yeah, it was great. Like, so I feel like it was very similar to what I saw with RT in that this first half, there's this huge information dump, and you can see these people just overwhelmed with this information. We obviously, deliver in a solid way, but then the second half is incredibly bespoke. And we go through this macro timeline, right? And this is where you see everyone's eyeballs kind of light up. And that's where you just, it was just super interesting to see you guys tailor it to the, their circumstances. And you basically just lay out the next few years of their lives. And you guys even had a baby timeline going, I think. So,
And look, we'll say there that as a property coach, you don't need to ask us for permission to have a baby, but we just like to plan them out so that we know that if and when they occur, we can plan around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, also it gave me an idea for content. I just see everyone having these light bulb moments, and then I just want to create a compilation of everyone on Zoom just like nodding their heads quietly. you see a lot of that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was really awesome to see.
So one of the things that, the coaches up front and the property specialists, and to some degree even the build support, the amazing work that gets done with the build support ladies as well. Like they have the longest time with our clients. I feel like, we get to know them the most intimately in terms of putting their strategy together and understanding what their risk profile's like, etc. But there are, unfortunately, there are some parts of the business that don't necessarily get that massive hit or that injection or adrenaline from dealing with our clients as we do. So, mate, how did you feel when you were on there and watching the clients and getting to see what we get to see on a nightly basis?
Yeah, it's awesome. So my first dose of that was about a month and a half into Axon. I went to the handover, right? And like you said, I don't really get that. So I don't see that client facing portion. I don't see how excited they are and like how we're genuinely changing lives. And it's one thing to really try to promote that on marketing, but to see it kind of informs your writing and informs like how you go about creating that content, right? So it's infinitely valuable to me. And then to go on these calls and just see you guys, working your magic and just being able to, talk the talk and walk the walk and be like, no, this is an incredible service that we provide. I'm seeing it firsthand.
Yeah.
It's invaluable to me for sure.
And exactly what you just said there, mate, with the experience of getting to see that firsthand and then falling in love and having passion about, as passionate as everybody else is in the business when you experience that. This is exactly why, RT and Tam brought our marketing team inside the business. This is why we hold on to an internal marketing team, because you understand what makes us tick. You understand the vernacular that we need to use, because let's face it, the defense has its own fucking language. We speak our own language. And so, it was, as Tammy said, like it was the missing piece of the puzzle whereby, it started to, really hone in on our ability to reach out and touch our clients and to provide them with an understanding of, who we are, but also what we provide. So, mate, you guys are doing an absolutely fantastic job. I know you're a little bit nervous coming on tonight, mate, but so I won't keep you too long on here, buddy.
No.
Hey, so one thing before I do let you go, mate. We just put up a poll. You guys put up a poll on our Facebook page about who is most likely to have a hidden talent between you and James.
Yes.
Who won that?
Well, I actually dominated the Facebook poll, but funny enough, James dominated the Instagram poll.
Yeah, well, so like completely unrelated, you and I were having a chat in the office today, and you were like, "Oh yeah, I do fucking stand-up comedy." I was like, "What?"
Out of left field.
Man, this guy plays golf, plays soccer, he's stand-up comedy, like he's an extraordinaire on Canva and all things bloody marketing. Mate, you are absolutely fantastic.
Tammy's asking me right now to do the loon call.
I don't even know what that is.
So in Canada, there's a bird, the Canadian loon. It's on our toonie. Or no, man, I'm going to shame Canadians right now. I think it's on our toonie. It could be our quarter. I think it's our toonie. But it's just this, it's this bird that inhabits our lakes. And this is its famous call, which my dad taught me as a child. And there's my hidden talent.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, the talent for Kieran will exit stage left. Thanks very much for jumping in, buddy. Appreciate it.
And also, I will actually, before I go, one parting thing. I do have a swear count going for this live event. And, Ryan's at 0 right now. Luke's at 5.
Good.
And that's actually down from our normal numbers with Robbie.
I'd like to say sorry, but I'm not.
Yeah,
I am who I am. People get the best of me, and that comes with some profanity sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, Mrs. Turner.
Hey, Luke, we just had a question from Justin come in about what wanting some insight on how we personally manage our property portfolios, and do we use any real estate investment technology to keep track of the properties and what's working for us and what's not. So, yeah, I mean,
my honest answer to that, Owie, is my wife.
Yeah.
No, look. To be fair, mate, like I don't actually track it. My wife uses a tracking tool that takes into consideration all of the costs associated to it. If you want, mate, I'll reach out on the back channel to provide you guys to provide you with that, mate, what that looks like. She keeps her finger on the pulse for us. I'm like macro, mate, when it comes to purse admin. I'm big hand, small maps. You might remember that. You might remember that saying, mate. What about you, Ryan? Are you using anything personally, mate, to track your portfolio and the ins and outs?
Yeah, so I use Excel basically. It's a free one that I found online. I tried a few, but it was one of the easiest ones. But again, if Justin, you reach out, mate, we can provide some tools. But yeah, essentially mine's just a free one, mate. And I like Excel. I know there's probably whiz bang apps and stuff out there that would make my life a whole lot easier. Yeah. But I'm still stuck in the Excel era. So
yeah. And Tammy's absolutely right. Like, well, I was being a little bit flippant before when I made that joke, but here's the thing, mate. When we're putting together a structure, as you know, when you're putting together a portfolio, more than one property, or even if it's your first property, that cash flow assessment that we do up front, that should be your first and foremost that you go to, right? So that takes into consideration all of those holding costs associated to having this or keep maintaining this property in the market, using the rent and the tax as our holding strategies. But if you are not cash flow tight and you don't need to be counting dollars, like, you've got a little bit of free cash flow and it's your offset account is going up at the end of the day, reach out and your accountant. So, I use Jace Cosgrove at Your Wealth Your Way, as everybody else in the business does, to provide us with that insight. He is an absolute Jedi master when it comes to breaking down financial structures and having a really good understanding of your cash position, as you move forward. It is absolutely imperative. Sorry, go, mate.
I was just going to say it's a good segue or point to highlight our ongoing coaching that we provide as well. So once you've got your property in the market, we have our ongoing coaching and mentoring every 12 months, where we do a review of your portfolio on how it's performing and what strategies we need to take from there on.
Yeah, and that you nail on the head, mate. Like, it will be that review that we do with you. If you want to, like the success package says, 6 months after the build, and then every 12 months after that, I put my hand on my heart and say that if one of our clients reaches out and wants to do an assessment, we're always there and we're always available to be able to do that for them. And if cash flow is tight, it becomes even more important that you reach out to us to be able to help you put those strategies in place. Like, there's numerous strategies that we have, like, amendment of your financial structure, putting an offset account in place, PAYG variations. There are a number of tools that we have in our toolbox to be able to tighten that up if that's the end state that you're trying to achieve. Because ultimately for us, it's about that end state and what you want to achieve. Let's talk about the acquisition process that we go through. Pitching us across two properties and developing of your portfolios. One of the things that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks or the last month since I've done my last discussion, is that's where we draw a lot of inspiration from when we come into these talks and we have these lives is our experiences over the last sort of weeks and months with our clients and seeing some of those trends and being able to share those trends with you guys. One of the big things that I've seen is people having a misunderstanding when they go through the PACE. So the PACE analogy that we use for the business, which is preparing yourself. So getting yourself in a position to be able to acquire your first property, the acquisition or accumulation of your portfolio, the consolidation of your portfolio, and then the enjoyment phase, which is ultimately at the end. And in that enjoyment phase, or that strategy that we put in place when we're investing through property, is of course that delayed gratification that we're aiming for. Enjoy it at the back end, bite down and focus on your goals at the front end. That doesn't necessarily have to be a linear process when you go through that accumulation and consolidation, right? Most people, or some people. And here's a trend I've seen recently: a lot of young people reaching out.
Yes.
So a lot of young people putting their hand up and going, I might not be ready right now, but I sure as fuck want to be ready, or I want to know when I'm ready to be able to pull the trigger, and I want to make sure I don't do what Luke did, pull the trigger on all of your entitlements in the wrong location, wrong price point, wrong timeline. it becomes so much more important to have that plan in place to be able to do that, of course. But when people are going through that acquisition process or that, that accumulation phase of their pace, people often think that you need to go straight from the accumulation into the consolidation and stay there. If you're a single member or and you've come to us and you're in that preparation phase, you start the acquisition process of your first property or developing your portfolio. Most people that we see, unless you're on a whiz-bang income, most people that we see will hit their maximum borrowing capacity with one, maybe two properties. So at that point, as per the diagram that we take you through in the educational videos, you will then naturally jump into the consolidation phase. So that's when you'll start to let the rents catch up. That's when you'll start to look at your financial structures. Like, we'll do reviews of your portfolio and put those financial structures in place so that you're letting the tenant and the taxman pay it off while you're holding that property in the market to achieve that sustainable growth. But you don't necessarily have to just sit in that consolidation phase. And in fact, Robbo and Megan, I hope they won't mind me, sharing their amazing success. Robbo was in that position where he was in the consolidation phase. He then had the capacity when he met his amazing partner, whereby they teamed up together. They were able to jump back into the accumulation phase. They were able to do another plan, put a strategy in place to be able to then jump into and continue their accumulation phase until they reach that maximum limit or that safe borrowing capacity for the two of them. And then they go back into the consolidation phase as a couple with a whole lot more assets in their back pocket. Yeah.
It just puts so many more rounds in the chamber if it's something that you can do. Absolutely. Yeah.
It absolutely does. But, I've also seen a bunch of young people. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting that if you're young, you should rush into something with a partner. Like, it's all about having that. If you're in a position whereby that is the best thing for your relationship and, you're solid enough to be able to do that, then you should be thinking down that path. Because here's the thing, if you're a young person, you're likely to have a reasonable income, particularly, if you're a soldier, sailor or airman. You're likely to have a reasonable income, but in the current markets, it's not likely to be enough to be able to project out and acquire a portfolio per se. So if you do have that significant other in your life, I would urge you to have that discussion or be prepared to sort of be in that place with your partner to be able to go down that path of a collective acquisition. Because once you're a de facto, once you're a family unit, like the ATO, the banks, everybody that is important that runs assessments against your finances in the government, they look at you as a family unit. Okay, so when you're in that position as a family unit, you might as well have that discussion and put yourselves in a position to be able to best execute against that in the near term.
Yeah, and I think going back to a comment you made previously, like it's just, I'm so amazed at the moment of how many people in their sort of 21 to 23 bracket are coming to us wanting to start a portfolio. And I know there's a few contributing factors like the DOHAS policy changes, the continuation bonus that's just been released by the ADF. But for people to have their mindset at property wealth at that age to start with, regardless of all the benefits, like it's phenomenal. It's the reason why I'm here and doing what I'm doing. It's fantastic.
It's absolutely inspiring, mate. Like when I was between the ages of 18, well, probably a little bit earlier, but it wasn't legal then. It wasn't legal to drink. But between the ages of 18 legally, and then up to about the age of 27, 28, I was just making memories. Like, I wasn't even considering, my financial future. I wasn't considering that delayed gratification approach. I wasn't even putting myself in a position, whereby I wanted to secure, my future. At that point in time, didn't have a family, and so I was just sort of, being a young, stubborn rooster, just doing my thing. But it's genuinely inspiring when we see, a bunch of young people coming in and knowing that they might have, a golden ticket coming up with that, with the benefit that's coming. The continuation bonus. Thank you, mate. The continuation bonus, like that may provide, depending on people's circumstances, of course, that may provide a golden ticket. But it's so good that so many young people in that situation where that's going to be available to them, that they're actually going to use it to benefit themselves in the long run. Like, their future selves are going to absolutely love them for it.
And I just thanks Tammy too. Like, when we're talking about borrowing capacity in single people, like, we're saying that it does make it harder, but ultimately you do have options. So you can get equity through other means, through parents' home potentially, or joining forces with with brothers and sisters, there are other options to try and strengthen that BC. It is what it is, and it just does make it harder, unfortunately. But yeah,
absolutely, it does make it harder. But I would rather it be harder and people be at less risk than allow people to jump into the market and make decisions that aren't going to allow them to hold those properties in the market over the long term. Because as you know, that's our strategy, right? The strategy is to be able to hold these properties. And so, I would much rather the banks be more stringent on our capacity to borrow than allow people willy-nilly just to borrow money without the capacity to service that loan. Lots of options, though, like equity through parents' home, joining forces in siblings. Yeah, thanks, Ron. Thanks, Tammy. Absolutely. When we are going through that...
sorry, mate. I'm just going to jump in. There's a familiar name. Rebecca Hughes just logged on. Awesome to see.
Hello, mate. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you, mate. We're doing our best. Just two young kids living in now.
Two young battlers.
You and I actually made an ad about this a couple of weeks ago. You and I had a little clip about this a couple of weeks ago where we had a discussion about when people are in that accumulation and consolidation phase about holding on to properties that don't necessarily give us the best result. Like, I would ask people, and I ask this of our clients all the time, do you consider yourself a 10 out of 10 kind of person? And of course, people come back to me and go, absolutely, I consider myself a 10 out of 10. So would you settle for anything less than 10 out of 10? Nope, absolutely not. And so they shouldn't. And then I say, do you think this property is performing as a 10 out of 10 property? And then I get, has this property done for you what you wanted it or needed it or expected it to do over the last X amount of years since you've owned it? And, it's something that allows people to unpick that themselves, and then they start to realize the opportunity cost involved in holding on to a property that's not necessarily going up in value. Like, most people's minds then switch to, well, it's not costing me anything. Like, it's neutrally geared, or it's, slightly positively geared, and I'm getting $50 a week in my pocket, or whatever that looks like. The thought process you need to go through with that, though, and when you've got your axons firing in the right way, is you need to not just think about it's not costing me anything. You need to think about the opportunity cost of holding on to that asset and having that equity tied up in that property. If you've got $100,000 to $300,000 tied up in a property that's not going up in value, have a think about, or consider the option available to you to potentially remove it from there and then put it in an area with 1 or 2 properties that is going to go up in value and provide you with that growth over time. I'm just speaking to a young fella. He's up in Tyndall, and he's just done exactly this.
Yes, yeah.
He threw the Hail Mary and bought an apartment down in Canberra, and thankfully, like, we love watching people succeed. Like, whether that's with Axon, without Axon, whether that's through, developing share portfolios, like we say, just do fucking something with your money.
Yep.
This bloke has, he's got himself in a position. He bought an apartment. He's been very fortunate that apartment has gone up in value. He reached out to us and said, hey, fellas, I'm thinking about maybe selling this property, maybe not. Can we discuss the option? Can we discuss the pros and cons to me selling this property? And so we sat down and went through, through his plan. We put that in place, and he was like, it's gone. I'm getting rid of it. He said, I now see why you guys do what you do and invest in the areas that you invest in. And I don't think through my lens now, looking at where my portfolio would potentially go, I don't think that there's a value in keeping this property in my portfolio.
Yeah, it's not going to serve him. No.
And so what he's done is he's put a plan in place. Well, we've helped put a plan in place for him and develop a strategy for him, whereby he's going to go and execute against buying his now first investment property. Once he moves this one on, he's going to buy his first investment property, and then he's going to be in a position where he's got a shitload of sort of cash sitting off the side and working for him in his offset account because he's got the right financial structures in place, so he's getting the maximum benefit out of that. He's then going to have options over his portfolio whereby he may be able to use the equity off the first property. He may want to tip in a little bit from his, from his cash holdings to be able to acquire a second property down the track. So instead of having one apartment sitting in Canberra in a market that we're not sure about, the value for money isn't necessarily there, and the growth potential isn't there based on the fact that, they can throw up apartments, almost willy-nilly in a city. And then you've got 40, 50 apartments going on the market at the same time, that supply and demand ratio that we always talk about. He's then taken action. So he's gone, this is not what I'm going to get the best out of for my portfolio, my development, and ultimately my future. He's pulled the trigger. He's thrown that thing on the market and he's executed against that because he absolutely knows that it's the right thing to do for him, based on the fact that he doesn't want to give up the opportunity cost. He doesn't want to experience that opportunity cost of having that tied up. So if you're in that position whereby you do have 1 or 2 properties in your portfolio, I'm not saying go and sell it. Don't throw it up on real estate. We need to sit down and work out a plan with you to be able to work out whether it is the best option for you to hold on to that property, or and to experience that opportunity cost if it's the best thing. If not, put a plan in place to be able to put you in a high growth area that's going to experience that that sustained growth.
Full kudos to that young gent too, because I understand that people that may have an existing property prior to coming to Axon, there may be emotion tied into that. They would have worked really, really hard to get this thing off the ground, and to come to the realization, I guess, through the planning stage that it may not be serving them the best, but then to still go, do you know what? I'm going to cut the umbilical cord from this thing. I worked really hard, but it's not serving me. Let's just call it. It's not doing its thing, and we'll move on from there. So it can be an emotional decision, but ultimately, we say your future self will thank you for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And John McKay, I missed this one before, mate. Thank you. It's so much harder as a single person. Well, in my opinion, anyway, mate. It's not just your opinion, buddy. It's fact. It is difficult. But here's the thing, mate. Whilst we're in the rock and roll of the posting cycle, we can take advantage of the most unspoken about entitlement that we have, which is RA, VHA, married quarter, live-in accommodation, et cetera, to be able to squirrel away as much cash as we can, to be able to and keeping our eye on the prize, or maintaining that laser-like focus on achieving that goal. Like, it's important to nothing comes easy, and if things come easy, they're not often, you don't often get the reward or the sense out of them of achievement. If you work harder for something and it takes you a couple of years of taking action and putting the right steps in place to be able to achieve it, I promise you, mate, by the end of that, when when those keys get handed over, you'll absolutely love yourself for maintaining that focus and approaching that delayed gratification. One of the other trends I've seen over the last couple of weeks is a discussion around redraws and offsets. Yes. Yeah. I think it's been probably 3, maybe 4 clients that we've sat down and that basically said to me, no, we'll just keep a redraw. We'll just keep it a redraw. For those of you that don't know the difference out there, a redraw is basically paying off your principal faster and then having a pool of cash that you can access on your home loan. Right? An offset sits off the side of your home loan, and any money that's sitting in that account it reduces the amount of interest that you are paying on that home loan. Interest is calculated daily and charged to you at the end of the month. If you've got more money in that offset account, they are charging you less interest on the principal of your loan. Okay. Here's the kicker though, and the big difference between the two. When you have your money sitting in a redraw, so you paid off your principal faster. Great, well done, amazing. You're cutting years and years off the back end of your loan. That's fantastic. What you don't realize is that money is the bank's money. Okay, that money sits there, and you have to ask permission for the bank to be able to give you that money. Even if you've got an account set up whereby you can make that a transaction or a transaction-like account where you can do daily purchases and stuff on it, you need to ask the bank or have the bank's permission basically to access those funds. When you have an offset account, it is your money. You own that money, and it has the same effect as having a redraw, except you don't have to ask the bank's permission for it, right? There is another big component to that starts to get complex when you start withdrawing larger amounts out of that redraw. That debt that is then accumulated based on the fact that you've taken a chunk of money out of there becomes non-tax deductible debt. You're taking money, let's say you're a bloody moto head like me, and you go out and you want to buy a Harley Davidson, and your 2 scenarios are you've got a redraw and you've got an offset account. You go to your offset account and you take the 35, 40 grand out of that, and you go and treat yourself to a Harley Davidson. Congratulations. Well done, you. There's the only impact on that is you're paying more interest on your home loan based on the fact that the principal's loan. If you go and do that That interest, by the way, is tax deductible debt because it's still interest against the asset, right? Sorry, yeah, it's still the interest against the asset. If you go and use your redraw funds to take money back out of there, that amount then becomes non-tax deductible debt because you've taken it out to go and buy an asset. It's one of those small ways in which we highlight the importance of having the right financial structures in place to be able to to maximize our opportunity and have every dollar that we have working for us. I see the light bulb moment when I start to discuss the power of an offset account and how it can impact and provide service to people when they're going through the acquisition process and holding on to those properties in the market. Like it's always one of those light bulb moments for us where people go, well, I would have just had my money in a fucking savings account. I'm making money.
Yes.
I would have it in a savings account. I'm making money. Krista Pearl, schooling on correct use of credit cards as well. I was 100% against it before Axon and Deb schooled us. You are absolutely correct, mate. Like credit cards, when they're in our lives, when they are used in the right way for us to be able to make the most or take advantage of the services they provide, they can be absolutely bangers in terms of reducing the amount of interest that you are paying on a home loan. And for those of you out there that are listening that haven't been through the coaching series yet, like these are the sorts, these are the little nuggets of gold that you pick up through the coaching series that we'll take you through, whereby, we'll identify the best structures to have in place for you guys. And if that works, and if that for you is a credit card to be able to leverage off other people's money, then that's absolutely what we'll do.
Yeah, it's an incredibly powerful tool when you combine it with the offset. But as we coach people around that, I'd call it an advanced strategy. It does take some discipline.
Yes.
It's certainly one thing where we wouldn't necessarily recommend up front. There's a little bit of coaching that needs to happen before, because credit cards can be a danger, right? So we just really need to be careful on how we use them, and if we have the right mindset, which we get an insight to once we go through the planning iterations of, is a credit card going to serve this person or couple the right way?
Yeah, and for us, we'll, of course, going through that analysis of people's financial structures and positions, and we'll provide you advice around whether we think it's the right thing for you to do going through the process, and you guys can go away and execute that based on those considerations that we make when we go through there. But you're absolutely right, Christina. Like it's one of those other little nuggets of gold. Like I know I say that a lot, but there are so many light bulb moments when we go through coaching where people go, oh fuck.
I think I just missed a question there from Justin. What are we seeing in the Australian property market? That's a massive question, that one. That's a cracker though.
That's loaded, mate. That's loaded. You know the answer to this one, are we? There is no Australian property market.
I think broadly speaking, what I'm understanding, what I'm reading is that the Australian market, like there's mini markets within the property market, obviously, but we're continuing to defy expectations. Interest rates are rising. It was expected to slow down things in the property market, but it's not actually seeing that at a macro level. And when I talk macro, we're looking at the capital cities of Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane. Obviously, there's different pockets around Australia, but broadly speaking, and ultimately, we're continuing to defy expectations with these interest rate rises. So we'll see what the future brings, I think. But I don't know if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, mate. Look. This is why you have, why people come to us. We've got, particularly in the property specialist space, like these guys live in this space, on a day-to-day basis where they're doing market research and analysis, looking into future developments, looking into price points, looking into a range of other options. Like it's not like we just, sit stagnant. Those guys work harder than an auctioneer's bid. They are constantly, in going absolutely apeshit when it comes to this stuff. They love it and they're passionate about it. But mate, for us, so yes, this is the short answer, buddy. We are always looking for future opportunities, but we also won't sacrifice on the 7 ingredients to a healthy property market. So for us, it's about identifying those locations. If we start to get to a point where somebody, is at a lower price point, remembering it's the location that is the most important thing to get right. What we will do in the specific circumstance with those individuals is we'll start looking at alternative property types. So still looking at freehold properties, still looking at, that kind of that key driver to that long sustained growth. But I guess the answer for me, mate, is it comes down to the individual's requirements, the individual's borrowing capacity. It comes down to the individual's options for us to be able to identify the right property for them. We are looking at a range of new locations like every day. Like it's one of those things. It's one of those things where, you know, as the market always develops, we want to develop with the market and develop our understanding of the market. So the answer is yes, buddy. We are keeping our oars in the water, Tam. With that, going back to, I want to just touch on now another key point that we've gone through that I take people on the journey of educating them, and I think there'll be a lot of value in showing our wider audience this up front now, and it's the discussion around borrowing capacity. So, you know, we're talking about interest rates going up. We're talking about, you know, it being tougher for clients, single clients, to be able to get into the market. What I want to do now is just, you know, give a quick snapshot on what it is the banks use to do their assessment on your borrowing capacity. So it's not just about having a heap of cash in your back pocket. It's not just about having a high income. Like, there are a combination of factors that they all put in play to be able to make sure that we can, you know, that they are able to loan you that money in a safe and controlled way. Because if you want to keep this house in the market and in your portfolio, you can sure as shit bet that the banks don't want you to stuff this up either. Now, most of you may know I am a tech quamby. So if this doesn't work, I'll apologise up front, but we'll give it a whirl.
Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
Ladies and gents. Let me share that. Has that come up?
You did it, mate. Well done.
Woohoo! So this is a little exercise we take our clients through when we go through the process, a little education snapshot on how banks will make their assessment based on the 4 C's of lending. And ultimately what we're looking for is 4 green lights for us to progress.
Dwayne too, just commented, oh my God, you've nailed it, mate. Well done.
Dwayne had a first-hand ticket to my tech quamby skills over here. First and foremost, they'll take a look at our capital or collateral. Now, there's obviously a difference between the two. Capital in its simplest form is cash that we've got in our pocket. So when you get your bonuses and retentions and all that sort of stuff, and you save up and you nug away, that's our pool of capital that we have access to. Collateral, on the other hand, is equity that we already have or a family member may have in an asset that they've already got. So think down the lines of bank of mum and dad. Think down the lines of you've already got your own property, as you remember with those case studies in the video when you guys watch those if you haven't. You'll remember that there may be available equity in that property, and that's what we refer to as collateral. That first assessment is what they'll do. They'll do the analysis on your ability to muster the deposit and costs. So to get together enough funds for the deposit and costs associated. We'll coach you around what those costs look like and an estimate, an indicative figure on what those costs are as well. Then second, they'll look at your conditions. So the conditions of your current state of affairs. So are you employed? What is the type of employment? How long have you been employed for? Are you working in your own business? Like, are you a sole trader? All of these considerations, come into play when a bank is making an assessment of your capacity to borrow the money and service the debt. They'll also look at your age. So, do you have the capacity to be able to service a debt for the longevity of the debt? If it's a 30-year loan, if it's a 25-year loan or the like. They'll look at your character. So what type of person you are and what are your behaviors based on your financial, figures. And then they'll look at your housing expenditure measure. So that's the cost of living associated to where you live, your marital status and the like. Once they've done those two, they'll then have a serious look at your credit rating and history. Like, you need to ask yourself before you go through this process, do you have any outstanding credit, black marks against your credit rating? That can impact our access to certain types of services within the banking sector, such as lenders, mortgage, insurance, and the like. So we need to have a very serious understanding up front of whether that's in play for you. And then finally, they'll look at your capacity to borrow the money and service the debt. So ultimately, that's talking about your income, okay, and your disposable income more importantly. So they'll subtract all of those, all those considerations from your income, and then they'll look at your capacity and your disposable income to be able to pay off that loan, over the life of the loan. And then once, ultimately what we're looking for are those 4 green lights for us to be able to progress. All right, watch me stuff this up now. when I stopped sharing.
Hey, why can't you do this in your coaching course?
Yeah, I've got 4 fingers. I type like a sergeant, and I have the tech skills of a logistics officer. None.
No disrespect to all the sergeants out there, of course.
No, not at all, mate. Robbie used to be one.
Hey, we just got a question in from Lukey S. Hey guys, just wondering what your advice would be for young prospective ADF members in the early stages of their career, and then a double up question: what to focus on, etc., and the basics for first time property investment. Cracking question.
Do you want to take this one away, mate? Like, I've got a head full of answers.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, in terms of just my advice for a young prospective ADF member, if we're talking about just being in the military and not talking about property investment, my biggest takeaway honestly would be, and it might sound a bit cliche, but lean into the challenges. There's going to be plenty of them, but you will grow and your resilience will build as you go through the inevitable tough times of a young ADF member. That's probably the biggest piece of advice that I could give. Not really knowing your circumstances and stuff, of course, but
I think for me, it would be get a mentor that's outside of the chain of command. Someone that has, a bit of a wise head on them, a bit of grey hair like me. Somebody that you can have a no bullshit discussion with and also get no bullshit answers back from them, that's gone through the experience, through whatever core you're looking at, you're either in or sort of going through, mate. It is, I can only say from personal experience that my journey in defence rapidly changed almost overnight when I met a couple of my mentors, and they started putting little bits of wisdom in my head that allowed me to look at things through a different light. And look, mate, ultimately, whilst I'm not talking about property, ultimately that is the same answer when you start talking about property, right?
Exactly. I was just about to say that, mate.
I didn't even mean to draw those linkages there until till the end of that. But getting someone who's walked in the shoes, made the mistakes so you don't have to, someone wise enough to be able to give you advice and relate to you, it is worth more than anything in the world to me, because it will allow you to avoid those mistakes and have to go back to the start and remake those mistakes and go back to the start and remake.
I love Jono's response there. Simple. Don't do what he did and piss it up, start a budget and stick to it. It's pretty standard, mate, and it's certainly not wrong.
very pragmatic advice there, mate. I think I would also be saying from experience, mate, if I said don't do that, like that's a very easy thing to say from your power.
we all did it, right? It's balancing that and trying to put a plan in place putting a plan in place to achieve your property investment goals at the same time. Like if you're a young ADF member, you still want to live your life and you still want to create those memories, but it's not tipping the scale too far one way so that you're 20, 30, 40 years down the track and scrambling.
Hey, Lukey, if you want to reach out, mate, like I'm more than happy to have a chat to you, buddy, one-on-one. If you want to have a call or a Zoom, just shoot the shit. Give me a bit of insight into your personal circumstances and situation, mate. I'd be more than happy to sit down and sort of talk to you about my experience going through defence and the like Robbie and myself are mentoring another young fellow who's going through the same experience. I'd be more than happy to have a chat to you, mate. So, feel free to reach out, dude. This is why we do it. We absolutely love this stuff. All right. I've got another consideration that's sort of been popping up over the last couple of weeks as well, is people, and I'm certainly not blaming people for this at all, but not understanding your entitlements in defence. Now, ultimately, this is why Axon exists in the housing space, like in the acquisition, whether that's your own residence that you're moving into or purchasing, or whether it's an investment property. But it's so critical that you have an understanding of all of the pieces of policy and legislation that go to supporting you with your entitlements. Like, you need to know what they are to be able to make best use of them. And you also need to be able to say no to your chief clerk when they come to you with a piece of advice that isn't necessarily right. Like, you need to remember that the CEO is usually the delegate for these decisions. So you need to understand what those entitlements are to be able to make best use of them. I've seen, over the last couple of weeks, I've seen a couple of clients that sort of didn't get the right advice and guidance inside of defence, and were putting measures in place to take actions that weren't going to leave them in the best position. And it doesn't make my blood boil because I'm not inside defence anymore, but it disappoints me when I see that there are policies in place that should be supporting defence members that aren't necessarily doing so through a lack of education or a lack of execution. So please take the time out to have an understanding of what are those entitlements that are available to you inside of defence. And specifically, I'm talking about, guys and girls going MWDU. I'm talking about members' choice accommodation. Yep. I'm talking about, all of those entitlements around those kinds of things, those unique, parts of service life, which
no one talks about inside. Like it's just written in Pac-Man, but there's no dedicated advice, which is it's a frustrating pinch point for me as well, for sure.
Now, I fucking hated policy when I was in defence. Like, even though it was my job, I hated it. But it was something that became acute. I became acutely aware of going through that. I needed to have an understanding of it to get the best results for my soldiers. But please, I implore you, you need to own that space for yourself to be able to put yourself in the best position, because that could be the difference between you having a disposable income to be able to save and therefore invest against it, whether now or down the track. That decision that is made at that point in time could be the difference between you being able to do that and not being able to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One of the final things I want to discuss tonight is this was a personal experience of mine.
Christina Pearl, the night's reading Pac-Man.
You still love policy, Luke. Well, not the HR policy. That's right, Tim. HR is not my friend. I am the HR nightmare, as most of you probably could have picked up with my flowery language that I choose to use. I think using flowery language is an indication of intelligence. I once heard. I'm not sure whether that's true or not.
No comment.
Now, the next point that I want to discuss quickly before we wrap up this evening is having an opportunity in defence whereby you'll come by a bit of cash. So where you'll have a bit of cash that sort of swear count is only at 6.
Mate, those are rookie numbers.
We've got to pump up those numbers. There are one of the unique natures of service life is there are a significant number of opportunities that will come your way or potentially come your way, whereby you'll get a hot influx of cash. Whether that's your continuation bonus, whether that's a retention benefit, whether that's an overseas posting. Those opportunities for most people out there in the big wider world don't come up too often. Okay. It is so fucking imperative, that's 7. It is so imperative that we have a plan in place so that we don't just chip away at those opportunities, right? Because they will be the difference between you having a successful portfolio for the rest of your life to be able to take care of you and your family and not. It breaks my heart to see when people have had these opportunities whereby they go through this, they jump in there and they do exactly what most people do and they live to their means.
Yep. So
all of a sudden their mouths become allergic to eating at home and they eat out every night and they start living to their means. Cash comes in and cash goes out. If we don't have a structure in place, like a budget in place, if we don't have positive control over our cash flow, it is so easy to start living to your means. And instead of drinking bloody, Cafe 43 or whatever the fuck that coffee is, that's 8. They start drinking, expensive coffees from around the corner. So
it's inevitable that there'll be mission creep for sure. Yep.
I've seen it time and time again, and it breaks my heart. With such a wide-ranging opportunity for so many young people in defence, I implore you to reach out and put a plan in place to be able to use that to your best benefit over the next 20, 30, 40 years, as opposed to going and buying a bike or going and buying paying off or paying part of a loan on a ute. Please don't do that. Make this money work for you and make sure you're securing your financial future with that. Just wondering if you guys, last one from Luke, yes, just wondering if you guys know about the Trenches with Kaz on YouTube. I am sorry, mate. I don't
No.
know. I don't know about that. I'll have a look. I'll take a peep at that, and we can have a chat about it when we catch up, mate. I've thoroughly enjoyed this tonight, as always. I love giving our clients, the current Axonites and the future Axonites, an opportunity to reach out and have some unvetted questions. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you. I'll get to that just before we hang up. Anyone around the Gold Coast tomorrow morning, please, Axon is hosting the morning tea to raise money for the Cancer Council. Please donate to our dedicated donation via the link on our pages. Please reach out. It's for an amazing cause. We're throwing on a morning tea tomorrow morning, so I'll be ducking off after this and doing some baking. That's not true. I'll just stop.
Yeah.
But please, if you've got a spare bit of dosh laying around and you're feeling generous, please reach into your pocket and fling it, fling it to the Cancer Council's way. It's an amazing cause. All right, mate. I'll leave you with the final words.
Mate, I was just going to say, Geordie West has I missed his comment. Can't trust a man that doesn't swear. So shit, mate. I think you've earned Geordie's trust as well. I know Robbie and I have got that in the bag already, but I think you might have ticked that box for him as well. So that's awesome.
All right, you legends. I absolutely love an opportunity to speak to you, whether it's directly or through these means. Please feel free to reach out, touch base. If you're thinking about putting a plan in place to be able to benefit yourself, please reach out, have a chat to Ryan, myself, or Robbie, and we'll go from there.
Awesome, guys. See you next time.